In this episode, we're going to talk about the Athens Marathon in Greece. The Athens Marathon just happened a few days ago, not even a full week. It was on November 11th, 2024, obviously in Athens, but specifically from the city of Marathon to Athens, and I got to go to that.
So what made you go to that race?
Well, I was attending the European Running Business Conference, which takes place biannually, and this year they had picked Athens for it. They usually pick a place that has a marathon on the weekend of it.
So there is some significance to the Athens Marathon. Do you want to give us a little history?
Sure, absolutely. So the Athens Marathon is also often called the Authentic Marathon because of its history. So ancient legend says that in 490 BC, during the Battle of Marathon, when a Greek soldier named Pheidippides ran from the battlefield at Marathons to Athens, which is a distance of approximately 42 kilometers or 26 miles, to deliver the news of Greece's victory over Persia. So according to the legend, after announcing, "We have won," he collapsed and died from exhaustion. So this inspired other people to want to go running.
That seems so unlikely.
Which is ironic, right? Because why would you do that? But marathoners are notoriously crazy. But in reality, this inspired the Olympic Games to have the distance of the marathon included. And that first marathon was in 1896.
Or so the legend has it.
Exactly. But it's still the original course that they use nowadays, and the official Athens Marathon was established in 1972, and ever since then, we've been running that course.
So essentially it's the oldest marathon.
It really is, yes.
So you'll skip over the conference. Did you have anything else? Did you have an expo?
Yes, there was an expo, and you know I love expos, and this expo is very similar to the one that we saw in Rome. It was at I think it was called the Taekwondo Hall. It was a very large building. You would walk in on a red carpet, which gave it a really nice touch. It made it feel very special. You're walking on a red carpet into the expo building, and then you kind of wind around the bottom, around the arena to go pick up your bib. Once you go pick up your bib, then you are kind of channeled through the maze of vendors, and you are channeled through that. Eventually you get to pick up your race shirt, which is upstairs, and again there's more vendors.
So after your expo, anything else you do that day?
No, because again, I wasn't really focused on having a good time, as in timing. I was just focused on having a good time. Get it? Like enjoying the marathon. I guess the night before the marathon, I was still out and about because it was the last day of the conference. So instead of resting, I was on my feet the whole day, and I think they had burgers, and then they also had bruschetta. So I enjoyed the food, but it was definitely not setting me up for the marathon.
Would you want to talk about race day then?
Sure. So on race day, most of the conference attendees were staying at the Grand Hyatt Athens, and we literally we're told we get to take the VIP bus. And you know, I like VIP treatment.
Anything that says VIP, you're sold.
Yes.
Even if it doesn't provide you anything, you're still sold.
But this one did. So a bus picked us up, all of the runners. Since I was super jet lagged, I slept the entire way to Marathon. I woke up twice and took a little video, but I didn't pay attention of the elevation and any of that stuff because in reality it didn't really matter. I was gonna run the ancient Athens Marathon.
Yeah, and you fall asleep in every car ride that I drive in, so I would not be surprised at all if you slept the whole way.
I did sleep the whole way, and it was epic. Then we got there and we were following the girl that was the VIP leader, and she told us before getting off the bus, make sure you follow me so you can find the VIP section. We got off the bus. I tried to keep up with the girl. I lost her within the first 2 seconds. She was walking so fast. You know, I'm not used to it. And in my head, I was like, oh, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to follow people. But then suddenly there's just crowds of runners and everyone looks the same. There was no, flagpole or anything she was holding up. So I found one more person from the bus and kind of kept up with her, and then finally found the VIP section, which was very nice. that happened. It was basically a roped off section that had its own porta potty, and it had a couple of tents that you could seal. There was one for men and there was one for women, and basically you could just get changed in there and warm up. Fortunately, the weather was pretty amazing. I want to say it was in the 50s or 60s in the morning, so you didn't really need any throwaway clothes or anything of that substance, and you didn't really need to sit in those tents, but we kind of did anyway, just because we were talking to each other with other attendees, and yeah, that was a really cool experience.
It's funny, for a runner, you're not a very fast walker.
I am a very slow walker, I admit that. The reason being that if I wanted to go faster, I'll just run.
Well, you almost got lost going to the marathon VIP section.
I know, but I didn't. So then it was time to drop off our bags. We had checked bags, and I had put a jacket in there and a battery charger because my phone loses battery very quickly, and checked that, got back to the VIP section, and then got to go check out the front of the race as we were corralled into Corral 1, because that's how VIP rolls.
So Corral 1, do you leave first?
Yes, yeah,
Really?
That's wave 1, yes. It was right behind the elite athletes.
Were some of those people fast, or was it just like a random mix?
I think it was a mix of fast people, but a lot of people that had special perks. But that's just, you know, from my impression. Obviously in section 1, us trying to go a little bit slower, everybody took off, and we kind of took off with it. It didn't feel super fast, so we weren't with the elite athletes. We were behind them still.
Yeah. So did you find some running buddies?
I did. I actually met Kim and Morgan Ashworth, who are the two ladies from the United States that attended because they have a business. Their business is to make race medals and awards, etc. And they are actually in charge of all the Boston medals. I think she also said Miami and some other ones. Early on, we decided, okay, let's stick together and just have a great time. And that great time started at the starting line. We were dancing along and, you know, listening to the music. So that was really, really cool.
So you were the wave 1 slow runners.
Yes, absolutely. But not that slow. I mean, we were still above average females, I want to say, right?
So Letty, can you give us an overview of the course?
Sure, absolutely. So this course is a difficult course. The first 200 meters are downhill, and then a little bit less downhill until you reach kilometer 4. Then it kind of seems to flatten out a bit, and then there is the uphill. There's various sections of kind of rolling hill feelings, but it's not steep, but it's definitely noticeable. So it's not a PR course, but then you basically keep climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing until you reach kilometer 31. So as you guys know, 42 kilometers in marathon, that's almost 3/4 of the race. That is a little bit more difficult. And then it goes downhill a bit, and then it flattens out and ends in the beautiful Olympic Stadium. So that's kind of just in a nutshell.
How about the hydration stations, etc.?
There was a ton of them, mostly giving out water, but also giving out another European ISO something drink. I cannot remember it for the life of me, but it was absolutely delicious. There was some food on the course. There were some gels called Malto, and I also found Coca-Cola, and they also had pretzels, salty pretzels, and probably a lot more that I missed.
What was that one race where they gave out, like, the drink was called Sweat or something?
Pocari Sweat, that was in Japan.
It's like, I don't know if that would sound very appetizing when you're
right?
running, but
I still can't get over the name because you're kind of thinking, okay, I'm drinking someone's sweat, and it's kind of like an off-white.
Plus it's like got salty, so.
It's actually really good though.
I'm sure.
But I don't know. I don't know what the marketing was behind that.
All right. Well, anyway, that just made me think of it.
The weather was great too. It was warm, maybe on some parts, but it wasn't too freezing, so it was really nice. I was wearing a vest to carry all the camera equipment and everything else, and that vest, because it was not breathable, it was neoprene, it was starting to get a little bit hot on my back. But at the same time, again, running it for a fun time, it didn't really matter.
Was it a running vest or?
It was a running vest, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, it was smaller, so I really wanted to have one of that size. I don't know. Might have to think about that one.
So you want to talk about the beginning of the race?
Yes, at the beginning of the race, they played the song Zerba, which I'm not allowed to play on any platform. And we all started dancing. It was absolutely beautiful to have that song because it's, I guess, a very iconic song down there. They played some more music at the start, and then the elites went out, and we were shortly behind it, at least for a little while.
Any music along the course?
Yeah, there was music and marching bands and that sort. And I actually, for the first time, decided to run without headphones because, I mean, I had headphones on me, but I was talking so much that I ended up taking them out.
So what about after the start? Any memorable experiences?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of went out fast, and I think that was because of that little bit of downhill, and we were basically running 25-minute 5Ks, which is great for a marathon, so we were on track to run a lot faster. But honestly, I'm only telling you this because everyone else that ran the race with me told me that. I didn't really keep track of time because, again, I was just trying to have a good time. And yeah, we saw a ton of kids. I took a ton of videos high-fiving kids, and spectators were awesome. The streets were lined depending on if you're going through a city, but then you also had a little bit of quiet. You also had a lot of people in costumes. You had people wearing togas, and you had a banana.
How about the middle of the race?
So during the middle of the race, I realized that I, was not trained for a marathon, and I learned to respect the distance. There is not one thing that really went wrong, but when you're not training for a marathon, it's usually around that 13 miles, and you've noticed that too, that the fatigue sets in a little bit more. I also realized that normally I eat better before a race. This time, like I said, I didn't really eat anything appropriate. I hadn't fueled, I hadn't hydrated myself enough, so I was really craving gummy bears and salt like I usually do, and a Coca-Cola, which we never drink any pop at home, any sodas at home, but I was having certain cravings that told me my body needed something else.
Coca-Cola.
Where? Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola.
So you were happy to see the end of the race coming?
I was kind of happy, although I would have maybe enjoyed running through Athens a little bit longer, but I was pretty happy it was ending. At the same time, it was kind of amazing. I got goosebumps when I was thinking I'm running the same route as that legend did when he was delivering news, and now I'm running it wearing super shoes, and I'm running it, even though I didn't take it, during an age where we have nutrition and everything.
And not war?
Yes, not war, exactly, and different motivation. He didn't do it for sport. So we all talked about that for quite a bit, I think.
Following in the footsteps of Pheidippides,
Who died after the race. Just how everything is different. Like, he was the biggest influencer of all of the runners because he started the marathon, really, if you think about it. And he didn't even know it, and unfortunately, he'll never know.
And so you finished the race.
So yes, that was pretty beautiful. Well, prior to finishing the race, we ran through a lot of blow-up arches, and it was almost confusing because you're like, okay, is that the end? But then you're like, no, I know I'm going to end in the stadium. Stadium's coming. The stadium is very different than the stadiums that we're used to in modern days. It was a stadium where it was much more narrow, and it seemed like it was only a 200-meter sprint to the finish, so we all did sprint to the finish.
and now like around 4 hours, beautiful, and that's Athens.
And then everything just went really fast because as VIP, we were sent to the left where we went through a tunnel, and that tunnel took us to yet another little house that was our VIP section. So we didn't really get to finish the loop in the stadium and turn out the other way. We were just funneled through that tunnel, which that was kind of an experience in itself because on the walls of the tunnel there were all the Olympic torches mounted, and that was really, really cool. And then after that, we were given our medals in the VIP section. along with a bag that had something to drink and a banana, and I think something else probably that I can't remember right now. And from there, since that was on the side of the stadium, you could take a couple of steps upstairs and you're literally able to overview the entire stadium and see all the runners finish. So that was absolutely beautiful.
So you commented on the Olympic torches. Did they have the Olympic rings there too?
Yes, you could see them in the stadium. So that was another thing, you know, the original Olympic Games, and seeing that was really cool. Yeah, so the winner of this marathon actually came at a 2:18 for the men and a 2:40 for the women. The elite field included many Greek runners and also some from other countries, but it was mostly a Greek ran marathon. And, you know, just think about that. If that fastest time for men is 2:18 and women is 2:40, those are still elite runners. So that only tells you about the terrain, right?
Difficulty, yeah. Okay, now that you finished the race, what else did you do?
Well, I got back into a VIP van, of course. That took me back to the Grand Hyatt, where I enjoyed the rest of the afternoon enjoying the facility of the Grand Hyatt, which included a sauna, a steam room, a hot tub, a cold plunge, which I didn't touch, and a pool. And a lot of areas where you just lay around and have, you know, soothing music playing, which that was awesome. You know, that's right up my alley. So that was very good.
Any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. If you are willing to travel to Europe, I think Athens is a marathon you should definitely consider. The race organizers that we had met at the conference were super nice. The setup was beautiful. Course support was there. It was just a really, really great experience. And if you're into traveling to Europe and you want to experience Greece, think about doing it in November, which is when the marathon happens.
What's a 10 out of 10?
10 out of 10. That's right, Ryan. 10 out of 10 as always. And that wraps up our video version of this race recap. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comments, etc., please leave those down below. And that's it.
Have a good week of running.